Early game, back-to-back, quick turnaround. We weren't great in the first quarter, and I thought the last three quarters we really stepped up, competed. I thought our second group came in and really set the tone for the...
So let me tell you about the exact moment when a sports establishment can no longer hide behind their own lies. For several weeks now, basketball's power brokers have been running the most coordinated misinformation campaign you've ever seen. They stared directly at fans, looked analysts straight in the face, and somehow tried to sell the world on this idea that benching Caitlin Clark was some kind of genius master plan. They kept throwing around terms like veteran experience, earning your spot, and the sacred traditions of USA basketball. But anybody who's watched basketball for more than 5 minutes could see right through this absolute joke. It was clearly wrong, obviously a huge blunder, and a complete failure to recognize raw talent when it's staring you in the face. But now something has shifted. The whole thing is finally cracking apart.
And that's what you want, right? You want that consistency from group to group. The first group didn't have it. They didn't set the tone, but the second group came out and did a really good job.
After Team USA completely demolished New Zealand 101-46, interim coach Nate Tibbetts stepped up to those microphones, and even though he buried his real thoughts under layers of coaching jargon and tried to avoid hurting anyone's feelings, if you actually pay attention to his exact words, this is basically a confession wrapped in diplomatic language. What we're about to do is tear apart this entire press conference word by word, cut through all the political nonsense, dive deep into those numbers, and show you exactly why the coaching staff has painted themselves into this impossible corner. We're going to make the case that Clark isn't just starter material. She's the one player this whole team should be designed around from day one. Here's how this whole thing went down. Clark finally gets her shot at starting. Basketball fans everywhere can finally breathe again. But those first few minutes against New Zealand looked pretty rough around the edges. The offense seemed confused and uncertain, and when Tibbetts faced the media afterward, he had some explaining to do about that rocky start.
Pointed offense.
This tournament, and just talking to Kara and our coaching staff, it's not always easy for players to get into a rhythm when the coaches are messing with the lineups, and part of that.
Pay close attention to exactly how he phrases this. We weren't great in the first quarter. I thought our second group came in and really set the tone. The sports media machine and all the hot take factories immediately pounced on this statement. They tried to twist it into some kind of criticism of Clark's performance. They wanted everyone to believe the coach was basically saying Clark bombed in her starting debut. But anyone who actually understands basketball strategy can see that Tibbetts isn't criticizing Clark at all. He's accidentally admitting that his own lineup decisions were completely backwards. He's confessing to a massive strategic error in how he's using his players. Think about this logically. You finally decide to unleash the most explosive tempo-setting point guard the game has ever seen, and then what do? You stick her next to another ball-handling, pace-controlling point guard. That's exactly what Team USA did when they started Clark with Chelsea Gray. Now, don't get me wrong, Gray is absolutely incredible and a proven champion, but she plays a completely different style of basketball. Gray is all about patient half-court sets, methodical decision-making, and controlled execution. Clark is pure acceleration, transition chaos, and shots from wherever she wants. When you force them to share the court, you're creating this weird tactical puzzle that doesn't make sense. It's like making a race car idle behind a school bus on the highway. Clark wants to attack the moment a rebound comes down, but the team structure means she has to wait for the veteran to make decisions first, so she holds back. The floor gets crowded. New Zealand's defense, which should be absolutely panicking about the pace, gets to casually walk back and set up their half-court defense because the US is choosing to slow everything down. When Tibbetts says that first group looked off and couldn't establish any momentum, he's absolutely correct. But it's not because those players aren't good enough. It's because the coaching staff created this awkward chemistry experiment where incompatible styles were forced together. This group didn't have it. They didn't set the tone, but the second group came out and did a really good job. Let's break down this bench unit that supposedly came in and rescued everything. The reserves included players like Ryan Howard and Angel Reese. Howard went absolutely nuclear with 18 points and hit 6 of her 10 three-point attempts. Reese dominated the boards the second she checked in. They looked unstoppable out there. But here's the real question. Why did they look so dominant? Did they suddenly discover some revolutionary offensive system? Not even close. They looked incredible because the starting unit, even with all its awkward spacing issues, had just spent the last 7 minutes completely wearing down New Zealand's defense. Even when Clark is stuck in a slower system that doesn't fit her style, just having her on the court changes everything. She pulls multiple defenders toward her every single time down the floor. She forces New Zealand's guards to fight through screen after screen. She completely drains both the physical and mental energy from the opposing team. So when the second unit entered the game, they were going against a defense that was already completely exhausted. The bench players did a fantastic job capitalizing on all the groundwork the starters had established. This is just basic basketball science, and the coaching staff understands this perfectly. But the most revealing part of this whole press conference, the quote that completely exposes how confused the coaching staff really is, came when a reporter asked directly about the lineup decisions. It's not always easy for players to get into a rhythm when the coaches are messing with the lineups. Part of that is just seeing who works well together and who doesn't. There you have it, straight from the interim head coach himself, messing with the lineups. This is the smoking gun confession. This is him admitting they screwed up. We're just months away from major WNBA action. The team is getting ready for crucial international competition, and the coaching staff is openly telling us they're treating the United States national team like some kind of chaotic laboratory experiment. They're messing with the lineups. When you've got a once-in-a-generation player like Clark on your roster, you don't mess around with lineups just to see what might work. You don't treat her like she's some random test subject in your basketball experiment. You make her the absolute cornerstone of everything you do, and then you find the 4 other players who perfectly match her speed, her spacing requirements, and her court vision. The problem was never about whether Clark was ready to be a starter. The real problem is that the coaching staff is scared to officially give her complete control of the team. They're terrified of disrupting the established pecking order, so they keep shuffling players around, playing these political games with minutes and rotations, sacrificing the flow of the offense just to keep everyone in the locker room happy. But no matter how much they keep messing with the lineups, no matter how awkward the system they build around her becomes, Clark's pure dominance just cannot be contained. The statistics from this game are the ultimate evidence against everything the coaching staff has been doing. The numbers completely destroy any argument that the starting unit was somehow a disaster. In a game where the coach openly said the starters couldn't find their flow, Clark still logged 23 minutes on the court. She still helped orchestrate this massive blowout victory. She put up 14 points and handed out 6 assists, doing it all with the kind of surgical efficiency that proves she's constantly adapting her game to beat whatever international defenses throw at her. She went 4 for 4 on 2-point shots, absolutely perfect from inside the 3-point arc. When New Zealand's defense desperately tried to run her off the 3-point line, she didn't force anything or make panic decisions. She smoothly worked her way into the paint, used her incredible footwork, and calmly knocked down mid-range shots and floaters. She's developing into a complete scoring threat at every level, and if you really want to understand her true impact on this game, forget about how choppy that first quarter might have looked and just check her plus-minus numbers. She finished with an incredible plus 24 rating. During the minutes she was playing, the United States outscored New Zealand by 24 points. She created more positive impact than practically anyone else wearing a USA jersey. Even with coaches constantly running these incompatible lineup experiments around her, the video doesn't lie, and the math definitely doesn't lie. This overwhelming, undeniable production leads us to the final and most infuriating part of this whole media circus, the disrespect that goes way beyond what happens during games and extends into the press conferences afterward. The commentator in this footage is absolutely livid, and he has every right to be. How come Caitlin Clark not at the podium yet? Like, she should have got player of the game. I don't know, man. It's some funny stuff going on with these people. He's calling out a clear pattern of deliberate marginalization. When Clark comes off the bench and puts up an amazing double-double performance, she doesn't get invited to speak to the media. When she finally gets her starting opportunity, drops 14 points, shoots perfect from 2-point range, and leads the team to a 55-point demolition. She's kept away from the microphones while coaches and other players handle all the interviews. This isn't happening by accident. This is a deliberate, calculated decision by the media relations team and the coaching staff to try and shape the story. They're desperately trying to show that this team is about more than just Clark. They want to showcase the depth, emphasize the veterans, highlight the second unit contributions. They'll do absolutely anything to avoid making her the central focus of every story. But it's a pointless and embarrassing strategy. You can't hide a supernova by holding up a flashlight. Clark doesn't need to sit behind some folding table answering boring, predictable questions from reporters to prove how great she is. She doesn't need some player of the game award from a media committee that's actively trying to downplay her impact. Her validation happens the instant she crosses half court and the other team's defense goes into complete panic mode. Her validation is those packed arenas, the television ratings that keep breaking records, and the pure fear you can see in the faces of international point guards who have to try and stop her. The coaching staff can keep messing with lineups all they want. They can continue starting her alongside players who don't match her style just to keep the veterans happy. They can keep her away from the media sessions, but the truth is already obvious, and Nate Tibbetts accidentally confirmed everything. These experiments are backfiring. The old way of doing things is completely outdated. The only time this team looks like an absolutely unstoppable, perfectly coordinated basketball force is when the ball is in Clark's hands and she gets to control the pace of the game exactly how she wants. The upcoming game against Spain is going to be the real test. Spain isn't New Zealand. Spain is a disciplined, strategically brilliant international basketball power. They won't let the United States get away with a sloppy, confused first quarter. They'll capitalize on every miscommunication and take advantage of every flawed lineup decision. If Tibbetts and his coaching staff don't stop experimenting, if they don't finally admit their mistakes and create a starting five that's completely built around Clark's incredible spacing and playmaking abilities, they're going to find themselves in a real battle. The days of political correctness are finished. The time for protecting veteran feelings has run out. Everyone knows who the best player on that court really is. The fans see it clearly. The statistics prove it beyond any doubt. It's time for Team USA to stop playing these games and officially recognize the queen of modern basketball. Thanks for diving into the film room with me today. We don't buy into mainstream narratives. We don't fall for clickbait headlines, and we'll always expose the real truth hidden in those box scores. If you want the most thorough, strategically focused basketball analysis anywhere online, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. Let me know down in the comments. Will the coaching staff finally put shooters and athletes around Clark in the starting lineup when they face Spain, or are they going to keep sabotaging their own offense by forcing her to play next to slow, methodical veterans? I'll catch you in the next breakdown.